Welcome to Please Me, the podcast bringing you bold conversations and big clit energy. Sí, Please Me ahora tiene subtítulos en español. And welcome to my Friday bonus episode series. I'm Eve, your host, on a journey from trauma to sexual liberation. Let's reclaim pleasure and close the orgasm gap, one empowering conversation at a time. Last week, I talked about the difference between medical abortions and the morning after pill. This week, I will be talking about the different categories of access in different states, as well as the options a woman has when finding herself in an unwanted pregnancy. This is a no judgment conversation, and every woman should feel empowered to have a right to choose. Did you know that podcasts rely on listener support to keep bringing you the content you love? For the best way to support the show, join me on Patreon for ad-free listening, early releases, bonus episodes, and exclusive content. See show notes for the link. I love that people are now tuning in overseas in the United Kingdom, Germany, Netherlands, Sweden, and Switzerland. Please share this episode with a friend and help me spread essential sexual education around the world. And be sure to check the show notes for the link to vote for me for Best Educator and Best Educator website for the ASN Awards. Please Me is for mature audiences. Sit back, relax, and surrender to the pleasure of Please Me. Hello, and welcome to Please Me, the Friday bonus episode series. I'm so excited to be with you here today, and I am going to be talking about abortion again this week. Last week, we covered several things regarding abortion. I covered the difference between the morning after pill and medical abortions. And I talked about the timing and the use and the differences between the two. Today, we're going to be covering the legal landscape regarding abortion in the United States and what general rules you can expect if you're seeking abortion services and what other pregnancy options exist. Because the choice whether to have an abortion or not should always surround and center on what you want, okay? Bodily autonomy, we have the right to make the choice ourselves. So the first part that I'm going to talk about is that the states that legal abortions are available. And typically, these legal abortions are available by state law until viability. And viability is considered 24 to 26 weeks pregnant or gestation. So we're going to talk a little bit about gestational limits as well, but that's for legal abortions. So some of the states that are allowing legal abortions still, okay, after Roe versus Wade was overturned are California, New York, New Jersey, Illinois, Colorado, Oregon, Washington, Vermont, Connecticut, New Mexico, and Massachusetts. This is not an all exhaustive list. So I suggest that you go to your state government website and get more information about your particular state. So then there are some states that are restrictive states. And restricted means that they allow some abortion services, but there's going to be some gestational limits, and there's also going to be some barriers to access. Some of the states that are restricted are Florida. Currently, they have a 6-week ban with few exceptions. North Carolina, Georgia, Nebraska, Pennsylvania. It's legal, but with mandatory counseling and 24-hour waiting period. Michigan is also legal, but with restrictive access. And by restrictive, I mean that legal abortions are limited depending on the circumstances, and they have a shorter window in terms of gestational caps, often 6 to 12 weeks, which is often when we don't even know if we're pregnant yet. So be very conscious of this if you are sexually active. They may require waiting periods, like I mentioned before, multiple appointments, and or parental consent. So if you are a minor, you may need parental consent to seek abortion. And then there are states that abortions are banned. And the abortion bans are severely restricted, and the exceptions are typically only for life endangerment, meaning that the mother is going to die if she doesn't have an abortion. And providers, meaning people that provide the abortions, if they are doing it not in a way that the state is agreeable to, may face criminal penalties. But travel to other states is still legal. So I want everybody to understand that you can travel to another state with legal abortions and you can seek the abortion care that you need if in your state it's banned. So some of the banned states are Texas, Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, Oklahoma, Missouri, Idaho, Arkansas, South Dakota, and West Virginia. And forgive me for looking at my notes because I didn't memorize all of this, but I want to bring you as much information as I can that's as accurate as possible. So I mentioned before gestational limit. And basically what that means is how far along someone can be in pregnancy to legally have an abortion. So every state is going to have their own gestational limits. And it's measured, just FYI, from the first day of your last period, not the day that you conceived. Okay, so it's going to be a little bit further back, oftentimes, than if you knew the exact date. And then some of the common limits are 6 weeks. Those are the earliest bans before many people even know that they're pregnant. 12 to 15 weeks is typical in some restrictive states. Okay, that was the second category that I talked to you about. The first one was, just to recap, legal states. The second one was restricted states. And then the third was banned states. And then the last gestational limit, common limit, is 20 to 24 weeks, which is where they consider the fetus viable. And so this is often the limit in protected states. After viability, abortion is usually only allowed in cases of danger to life or health of the mother, meaning that the mother may die if she doesn't have an abortion, or if there's a severe fetal anomaly, meaning that the fetus has some kind of disease or chromosomal abnormality, but it has to be a severe one. So some of the general rules and what you should expect. There's typically a waiting period if you are seeking an abortion between 24 to 72 hours between the time that you have your consultation and the procedure. So you will have to get a consultation first, then wait for 24 to 72 hours, and then you would have the procedure. Florida and North Carolina are states that require that. And then we have a parental consent or notification for minors, and that varies by state. So if you know of a minor child that needs to have abortion services, you'll have to look that up per state. And then mandatory ultrasounds in some states are required. And then in-person counseling is also important in some states as well. Sometimes it's required. And oftentimes these counseling services are done by a biased or medically inaccurate information. So they may not be providing you with accurate information or pro-choice information, meaning that you have the choice. Sometimes they are organizations that are religious, etc. Know that if you are required to get counseling, that it may be biased, okay, in some states. There are some organizations that offer financial support, and I want to just let you know about those. There's the National Network of Abortion Funds. You can go to abortionfunds.org. There's the Brigade Alliance, which offers travel support. And then there's Plan C, which offers information on self-managed abortions with pill access, meaning the medical abortions that I talked about the last episode that I did. So if you are interested in getting a medical abortion with medication, again, that has to be done in the first 10 to 12 weeks of pregnancy for it to be within 98% effective. So that's really important information, I think, for everybody to know. I also talked about, and I'm just going to briefly mention it here, the morning after pill, which is something that you would take within 3 to 5 days, but before 3 is better after you've had unprotected sex, so that the sperm does not fertilize the egg. That is what the morning after pill does. And oftentimes the morning after pill is available over the counter. So I think everybody really needs to understand that. I want to talk about some common myths and facts about abortions. One is that abortion is illegal everywhere now, and that is not true. We talked about the certain states that it's restricted and certain states that it's legal, and then certain states that it's banned. So you need to really understand what your state's laws are so that you can understand what access you have in your particular state. Then another myth is you can't have an abortion by mail, right? And we talked about medical abortions and the two types of pills that can be used to terminate a pregnancy within the first 10 to 12 weeks. So I talked a lot about that in part 1 of this series. So I suggest that you go back and listen to that one as well, because that one gives you a lot of information about medical abortions. And then another myth would be abortion causes infertility or breast cancer. And there is absolutely no scientific evidence that is the case. That is untrue. Myth number 4 is that people use abortion as birth control. And again, this is a common myth, and it's absolutely not true as well. Most people who seek abortion already use contraception. Life circumstances, not irresponsibility, are the driving factors. So sometimes you can be using a condom and it can break, or you can be taking birth control and maybe miss a day and end up getting pregnant, or if you have an IUD and it malfunctions. So oftentimes people are already using birth control, however, they still wind up getting pregnant. And then the last myth is that only young or single women get abortions, which is also not true. Over 60% of people who seek abortions already have children and may also be married as well. So I want to talk about other options to abortion, because I think that we need to understand all of the choices as women that we have, whether or not to seek abortion services in the first place, right? So some of the other choices would be actually keeping the child and parenting them. And of course, there are challenges to parenting a child. It's a huge responsibility. Being a mom, I understand, and being a single mom, I understand how difficult it is. It's a big financial strain. Oftentimes, you may experience difficulty having access to healthcare for your children. Childcare is extremely expensive, and housing, obviously, you need to have enough space to have space for your children as well. So all of those things are challenges. However, there is support around having your child and keeping your child. You can access Medicaid services or WIC, which unfortunately are on the chopping block in this president's administration at the moment. But these are some of the things that currently exist that may not be existing much longer. Local nonprofits can help with maternal health. And then there are parenting hotlines and shelters that can also help with housing. It's important for parents to understand, or people to understand that decide to parent, that this is a conscious and proud choice, and it should never, ever be forced. So the next thing that I want to talk about is adoption. And there are different types of adoption. One is an open adoption, which means that the parent of the child, the biological parent, is going to have ongoing contact with the child and the adoptive family. And you may choose the family and stay involved in your child's life. So that is an open adoption. Then you have a closed adoption, where there's no identifying contact and the records are sealed. So you will never have access or know your child. And then there is a semi-open option, which also exists, and it's going to be a hybrid of those two. And it will really depend on the rules and the circumstances around how they want to create that contract between the biological parent and the adoptive parent. So there are some options there if you decide that you want to go the adoption route. All parents should know their rights. So you must give informed consent, usually after birth. In most cases, you can't be coerced or pressured to give your child up for adoption. It's always the parent's choice. You can work with licensed agencies or attorneys to guide you through this process. And counseling is often available and also recommended to help explore the emotions and the legalities around adoption. So definitely recommended to get counseling services if you decide to go the adoption route. Honestly, counseling services can help in every single category here. And then I just want to end here with talking about how we as women need to empower ourselves to know all of this information so that we can really make the best decisions for ourselves as we are entering into our fertile time. And that fertile time lasts a long time. And so you might find yourself pregnant in teenagehood, or you might find yourself pregnant in your 20s, 30s, 40s, even 50s. And depending on what time of your life, you are going to have different views around how you can support a child in your life if you decide to become a parent or add to your family. It really is a choice. Women have bodily autonomy, meaning that we choose what happens to our bodies. And so we should demand that, okay? Never feel coerced into doing something that you are not comfortable doing. I just want to mention here too that you have the right to access care, whether you choose abortion, parenting, or adoption, and you have the right not to be judged. Just like sexuality should be a non-judgmental zone, it is how we all got here. Sex is part of humanity and human existence. So too should seeking abortion care or making the decision about adoption or parenting. Okay. All of this is something that many people go through. It's a common occurrence and it's something that can affect a lot of us. So I highly suggest that you look at what's going on in your state, find out what the laws are in your state, and find out where you can receive medical abortions if you need them, morning after pills, or if you are interested in getting an abortion at some point in your life, understanding where you can access those services as well. You can also donate or support to abortionfunds.org, which is a national network that helps with abortion funds for people who need it. There's INEDANA, so INEEDANA.com, which offers information and resources. There's Planned C pills, which help to manage or self-manage the options that you have. There's Repro Legal Defense Fund, which supports people criminalized for abortion. And then you can Google, okay, your state name plus abortion fund and find out if any abortion funds exist in your state. So I just want to thank you for listening here and for holding space for this very important topic. I think it's a necessary conversation that we need to destigmatize and start having with our friends and family and partners, because abortion is a real option. However, there is limited access in a lot of places across the country. So knowing what those limitations are is essential to protect your sexual health and your health in general. I just want you to stay empowered, stay informed, and always remember your body, your choice. Until next time. For ad-free listening, exclusive bonus episodes, Eve's library of archived webinars, and early access to new releases of Please Me, become a monthly supporter on Patreon. Simply open the Patreon app on your phone, search for Please Me, and subscribe today for premium content and more. Cheers to finding your pleasure and big clit energy.